Okay, it's Terry. Following up on that last video, I gave you some hints. I wanted you to do this. I find that if you try and work things on your own, you tend to remember them better. But now, just in case people didn't find it, I'm going to show you sort of my solutions to trying to do this. So as I said, this first paper, if I just take it and I go to Google Scholar and just sort of stick that in, right, doesn't find any matches. It's just not there. Even if I do a few things, getting rid of some of these parts, doesn't find it. So this is where it starts to get interesting, right? So it finds related papers, but not exactly right. Quantum cryptography for IoT system security, right? Now here's a title that's almost the same: quantum cryptography for Internet of Things security. So not quite exactly the same, but this gives us a particular hint because if I go back and look, right, the authors, however, are not the same. This has got an author of Bhatt and Sharma, and this paper had Sharma, Verma, and Sharma. So although we found something in Google Scholar, it's not the same. But as I said, one of the things you can often do is you can also look at the authors. Now, this is not as good, but if I look at this author, A. Sharma, right, that he has a Google Scholar link, so I can look at that. So now I can look through their papers, and actually I'm going to do this the way I do it is in this case I know what year it was published. It was a 2019 paper. So since I searched, I can just scroll down into his 2019 papers and see if there's an exact match. For healthcare systems. Okay, so quantum cryptography for Internet of Things security, not the right place. So that's the one we actually got here from. But here we see quantum cryptography for IoT security, system security. That's the paper we're actually looking at with Sharma, Verma, and Sharma. So now I can click on this, and it'll tell me some information about it, but it doesn't actually get me the paper. So that approach, which sometimes will work, because if it had been had multiple versions, like one, for example, on the author's website, then they might have actually found it that way. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way. I'm going to search for this journal. Okay, and I'm just going to skip right to its archives because I don't need to start at the top. So now I go back and I am looking for 2115, volume 2015, volume 21, number 15. So volume 21, number 15, that's 15S. So here we go, volume 21, number 15. And here, I'm just going to scroll through, I should be able to find it. Okay, actually lots of things. I'm going to search for IoT. No, not that one. Here we go. Here's the PDF of that paper. So just because you don't find a paper with your first search in Google Scholar, please don't give up. Sometimes actual papers cited in other papers are really important, and you have to dig a little bit to go through that. I'm not going to go through the example with in as much detail for Zhao Ling. If you try and do everything, because the et al, it may not work. But in fact, what I show here is actually if I do the search by just using a couple of the authors, and not all the words, but some of the words from the title, because some people will sometimes miss a word or replace something incorrectly. So when I go to do the search, I will often and this is actually the paper because I'd already done the search on it, but basically be a little more general as you go search it, and then you can get down to the actual paper. This one, if I'd actually gone through Liang Zhao's paper and I sorted them by year and then went through it, right, you'd actually find it this way. So this, because it actually is in Google Scholar once you find it, but if there's a typo in the name, and that's actually the most common thing. Somebody, especially for me, I'm dyslexic, I'll generate them, but anybody can have a typo where you accidentally, when you deal with your bibliography, make an error. This is especially true if you type it by hand, which is one of the reasons I recommend things like Zotero, so you don't have as much chance of making an error. But even a single word typo can make it so you don't find it in a search. So you have to be a little more general as you go through that. So just to show the solutions for people, because some people sometimes may not find it, I wanted to sort of show you the process. That idea that I showed you of finding the journal and then going through it, that's the way in the olden days when I started, right, we had to look things up by first going to the journal and then going through it that way. It's still an effective way sometimes to find stuff if they got the journal volume and number right, which they don't always do either. But so sometimes you'd be off by a month or two because it was a typo, so you'd have to search around. But, okay, thank you.